This time last year, of course, we were sat here talking about Vinicius Jr and Real Madrid boycotting the Ballon d'Or after, of course, it was awarded to Rodri. He promised that he would be 10 times better to prove everybody wrong. It certainly hasn't worked out that way at all. Of course, you can see his goals have halved, exactly 16 after the Ballon d'Or ceremony. And of course, Champions League, La Liga all belong to Real Madrid. After that, after the Ballon d'Or boycott, they've done nothing but complain about referees. Now, of course, this is not just Vinicius Jr.'s fault, but what's interesting with the story and the narrative around Vini Jr. at the moment is we saw again, he was clearly unhappy being substituted at the weekend. There is clear friction between Xabi Alonso and Vinicius Jr. It was interesting on the weekend, Xhaka brought up the fact that, Vinicius Jr. is seeing this Real Madrid side go forward without necessarily him in it, Robbo. And I'm wondering if you're Xabi Alonso, how you address that.
Well, Xabi Alonso has been part of that. I think he's looked at it and thought, well, I want discipline from my players. I want players that carry out instructions. Yes, I want talent as well. He's got Mbappe, but I want players that do what I ask them to do. And he's probably not been particularly happy with Vinicius Jr. under Ancelotti, and Ancelotti managed him well, but allowed him to do what he wanted. Really, he said he was the star of the show for a couple of seasons. Said you can do what you want to do, go and take people on. Well, Xabi Alonso's not going to let him do that, and I think his nose has been put out of joint. He hasn't played anywhere near as well. He's lost his confidence. He's lost probably a little bit of his arrogance that he had when he was playing very well. And as a result, he's not always going to be picked in the team. And other players are playing much better. And Mbappe has certainly come to the fore this season.
Now is he even top 10?
I mean, how quickly these things can get taken away from you, right? I think even when he was kind of in his palm, if you look at it from Vini's perspective for a minute, leaving aside all the stuff off the pitch that he had to deal with, the racism and whatnot, Real Madrid bring in a guy who plays the same position in Kylian Mbappe. Mm-hmm. And then you had that whole Mbappe-Vini dichotomy. Obviously, Mbappe ended up playing through the middle, but it wasn't lost on anyone that part of Real Madrid's woes last year were down to work rate, as Robbo said. And then on top of that, there's two other big factors. One, Rodrigo over the summer, this whole kind of pretending like they're going to move him on. Xabi Alonso's a practical guy. Once Rodrigo doesn't move on, he says, you know what, Mastantuono's ripping it up. He's tremendous. Brahim Diaz works hard. Why don't I move Rodrigo to the left flank and let him compete with Vini for a starting spot? That's where Rodrigo's at his best. And then there's the other elephant in the room, which of course is his contractual situation.
Yep.
He goes out of contract in 2027 and the clock is ticking.
Yeah, I was speaking to Gustavo about that and he said there is no progress whatsoever from Real Madrid when it comes to Vini's contract at the moment, Shaq. Am I right in thinking the dynamic of that dressing room is that people don't care as long as you're winning? Like, no one's thinking, why isn't Vini playing more? Or what? Explain to me a little bit about that.
To your point, not just that dressing room, any dressing room.
Yeah.
You're winning football games and you're involved. You're happy. You're not worrying about anybody else or who was good last year or who might have been the star last 3 or 4 seasons. You're winning football games and winning well. And you have that focus in Kylian Mbappe as to who's the star of this Real Madrid team. To kind of take exception to Xabi Alonso and that decision, I thought was a poor move. And again, as I said a couple of days ago, I think more born out of frustration than it is in a footballing reality.
Robbo, obviously, we spent the start of the show talking about Dembele winning the Ballon d'Or. There's an argument to say he wouldn't have won it if Mbappe was still at PSG. Are we in a situation where Vinicius Jr, we've seen him trend downwards because of the arrival of Kylian Mbappe, which has taken his space up front and obviously denied him those opportunities that he would have taken in the past?
I'm not quite sure that it's Mbappe that's caused the problems. I mean, Xabi Alonso is the man that's changed it in terms of how he perceives Vinicius Jr, I think. Ancelotti loved him. He saw that he was an absolute talent. He could go past people. He'd score goals out of nothing, and he was the leader. And he was the player that the crowd got up for and enjoyed watching. And Mbappe came in, and they didn't always work together particularly well, but they got better. Mbappe scored goals, and Vinicius Jr was still a good player for most of last season. It's been this year where the attitude has changed slightly and he doesn't look quite so happy and he's been taken off and he's not getting minutes. He was always going to be a fixture in the team. Not now, because Xabi Alonso has looked at it and said, well, I'm not sure about this and I'm not sure about that. And remember, Jude Bellingham's got to come back at some point. So how are they going to fit him in as well?
Is there a market for it?
That's the great question. I mean, Xabi Alonso, for sure, he's a system coach, and it's difficult to be a system coach at Real Madrid. But right now, he has a contract. He just arrived. He's got all the leverage that I think he can wait it out for Vini. The difficulty with Vini and his new contract, and whether there's a market for him, it's a little bit like Salah last year at Liverpool, in the sense that, going into the season, you ask yourself, all right, well, who's going to, from an economic standpoint, who's going to match these wages? Only clubs that, other big clubs that are comparable in stature to Liverpool aren't going to give you that money. So really, Liverpool felt they had a lot of leverage. I think it's a similar situation here. If you're Real Madrid, realistically, where is Vinicius going to go? Who's going to give you a serious transfer fee for Vini, even with just a year left on his contract, which is what he'll have in the summer, and maybe even after a good World Cup? There were reports in Spain from El Chiringuito, they'll look to move him in January. Unless the guy goes to Saudi Arabia, and he's turned down that opportunity before, or takes a major pay cut somewhere else, I just don't see that there's a market for him. And the best thing that he can do is buckle down, work hard, have a tremendous World Cup, win the World Cup under Carletto Ancelotti, and then you'll have a year left on your contract, and you'll hold all the cards, and you could write your own ticket.
You agree, Shaq?
Yeah, I don't know who comes in for Vinicius Jr. The kind of money that he would command, unless it's Saudi Arabia. That they're the only place you figure can afford Vinicius' wages. Whether that's his motivation at this point, turned down a significant approach last year, whether that's his motivation or that's his only motivation in terms of, I'm going to make sure I'm determined to get out of Madrid and I'm going to get paid. I'm not sure where else he goes.
Real Madrid, of course, flying to start the season. Barcelona just behind them at the moment. And it's an interesting debate that they brought up on yesterday. Ferran Torres or Robert Lewandowski? Ferran Torres, of course, grabbing all the headlines after an excellent performance we saw yesterday in that 3-0 victory. Has he done enough now to put enough doubt in Hansi Flick's mind to see him starting ahead of Robert Lewandowski?
I think there's going to be situations where you're much better off with Ferran Torres up front, but equally there's situations when you're going to want Lewandowski. When you play teams that park the bus, if you're playing Getafe and they're kicking the lumps out of you or whatever, well, like they did, then I think Lewandowski is the logical option. He's technically better. He has that eye for space. But yeah, if you're going to play a high press, you're going to play in transition, then Ferran is probably the best option. So more and more, I would imagine they would alternate.
As you say, Rashford, of course, would have probably started 2 minutes late. Come on. That's all right. Give him a little bit of slack.
If I've struggled to get into the team, I'm playing Champions League, score 2 goals, I'm showing up an hour early.
Right.
The janitor was
something that you never had to deal with in your career.
Well, yeah, that's right. The janitor would be there kind of hoovering up, and I'm sitting there waiting. So listen, Hansi Flick has shown himself to be a disciplined. This is not the first time with Hansi Flick. Might be the first time for Marcus Rashford, but not the first time that Hansi Flick has taken this hard line in terms of that discipline. So I think this is a Marcus Rashford, no question, 2 minutes or not. And then Ferran Torres given his opportunity, and that's all you can ask. All you can ask is an opportunity, and you aim to take it, and that's exactly what it does. Now all of a sudden it moves Marcus Rashford back, having to get himself back into a team, because the old cliche, you don't change a winning team.